Which essay question would you like to discuss?
5.
5. Is everyone doing 5?
No.
3.
You're doing 3.
Yeah, I'm doing 3.
And you're doing 3? 2.
And I'm doing 1.
Excellent.
No one's doing 4 though.
What happened to 4? It's just an unloved question. Okay, let's do 5 first. Can you read out 5?
Yeah. What does it mean to have faith with respect to the work of art? In what way or ways does this involve the sexual, erotic and libidinal? Please discuss in relation to Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling, Derrida's The Gift of Death, and Freud's introductory lectures on psychoanalysis. Bonus, link it to the Wickman.
So what'd you do?
I tried to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
a little bit more. What's the argument?
Well, I looked at it from, because I don't make art, I've also tried to look at it from the point of view of looking at art, and I've tried to sort of structure my thing in terms of faith in the sexual in making art, but also in taking art.
And by faith you mean?
And by faith
I mean, it's kind of good if I get everybody to believe in the sexual, but you don't mean it like that, do you?
I don't know. I mean, give like a giving of the whole self and the sacrifice version of faith, in terms of like a belief that it's somehow right or needed, necessary.
Who else is doing 5? Was there another 5?
Yeah, I'm 5.
And what did you think?
Well, I'm thinking there's some sense of surrender and becoming totally available to both the spiritual impulse and the sexual impulse.
And that's what you were saying as well.
Yeah,
like there's a
so.
fusion between the sexual and the spiritual. So, and it's kind of like a surrendering and an opening, and that there's a kind of that's on a kind of altered plane of consciousness compared to the ethical or the mundane.
And so the teleological suspension of the ethical was what? Yours was a pretty good answer, except it didn't get printed out. Remember what you said?
Yeah. Well.
Because
yeah.
that's what you're going to have to emphasize.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is that you've got to basically, it's to do with freeing yourself from attachment, so that Kierkegaard talks about where he rewrites part of the Bible. Did you read that part?
The different versions of going to
Yeah,
on the journey.
he sort of retranslates from the New Testament, where Luke says, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, in his own life, also he cannot be my disciple. And if you were to change that from hate, he sort of takes it through a whole series of ways of diluting the hate. So it's sort of by hatred, per meiosin, which means by hatred, and it sort of ends up eventually as nothing matters. So then if you change it to, if any man come to me and makes nothing of his father and mother and wife, then it really changes the meaning of the original, and it makes it basically the teleological suspension of the ethical.
Did you understand that?
So that he's dropped the attachments on
Yeah.
that level, and he's got these other spiritual, attachments or understanding or connectedness.
It's more the stepping sideways. It's alongside. It's making less of. He makes it into minus diligent, which is be less diligent. Out of body, post habio, and then non-collar. If you read it, he goes through.
Now, you say if you read it again.
Sorry.
They have read it.
If you read it again, sorry.
Not sounding familiar.
Okay, shall I read you that part? I'll read it slowly. I'm reading it.
Wait, no. Wait, Sarah.
Am I making sense?
Yeah. You,
Thank you.
Christina. You're not Christina. You're Key.
Yes.
Where is Christina? She's not here. I don't have yours yet. I mean, I have it, but I don't have it
Yeah.
printed. I'll talk to you later. Sorry about that. Oh, you were there. Oh, we do have this. Yes. Okay. All right. Don't feel bad if I get all your names mixed up. It's not because I don't know you, it's because I love you all equally. Okay? My father used to say this because he always got our names mixed up. I mean, in his own family. Okay, let's start again.
Okay, can I draw it? Because it's easier if I draw it.
Okay,
Right.
so while you're drawing it, let me just go back to say that the question is really asking you, why is it a requirement to suspend oneself in such a way that it both surrenders and creates a path? Because it does sound like if you surrender, that you're kind of giving up. That's what the word surrender tends to mean. So, and also if you surrender and it's faith, then the problem with faith is that it turns out to be dogmatic or blind faith. And Kierkegaard is arguing, this is why it's so complicatedly sophisticated, he's arguing that it's neither blind nor directed. There's another logic involved. And this is the logic that I'm asking you to tap into for art. And I don't know what you're drawing there.
You're making faces, I'm going to watch it. Can't do that on camera.
Okay.
Okay, so, right, so the original text reads like this. Luke 14:2 presents a remarkable teaching on the absolute duty of God. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. The student of theology learns, however, that these words occur in the New Testament, and in one or another exegetical aid he finds the information that missing, to hate, both here and in some other passages, is used per meiosin, and that completely alters the meaning, basically. He says, by adopting a weaker sense to mean minus diligio, love less, post habio, give less priority to.
That's a B, by the way, not a D.
Excuse me. All in handwriting. Okay. Post habio, give less priority to. Non-collo, show no respect to. And that turns into nihil facio, which is make nothing of. So
So try it again.
So
Go
then,
again.
if you, well, I just rewrote it. It's kind of easier if you, what, go through this again.
Yeah, just say it again, just so
Okay,
everybody
so
gets
this is hatred. This is.
Really, don't make an upset face.
This
You'll
is
have to
the-
sit on this chair, and we know what you think about the chair.
This is the original in Latin hatred, but if you were to make it per meiosin, which is by or alongside hatred instead of hating, like I hate you, it just means alongside hatred. And then he turns that into minus diligio, which is literally love less, which is, I was saying to Johnny, it's really interesting because there's a line in Hamlet where Hamlet says to Ophelia, be thou less diligent, and I never understood it until I read this, and it basically means love me less, and
No, not quite.
well, not quite. It means, yeah, go on. What were you going to say?
No.
It means be less attached to,
It means be less directed,
yeah.
which is a different thing. So when you think about your work, your artwork, you have to have a certain form of passion involved. If you don't have that passion, it's not going to work. That passion is what directs you. It's also what trips you up. So if you don't allow yourself to trip, in a certain sense, if you're too directed, then it's not going to work. Hello? Hello, I'm in the middle of a seminar. I'll call you back. Okay, bye. Oh, I got a phone. I got a phone. Bye. My partner, where are you? Days. Okay, sorry. Okay, where are we now? So,
Do you want me to carry on? Is it-
okay,
Am I
but
making sense?
just the sense of what's being asked of you is think about a logic that is not a rational, like as in mathematical type of logic. But that doesn't mean that it's any less logical. There's a logic involved. It's not a dogma. It's something else. Okay, now you can go.
Oh, okay. So there's minus diligio, and then he turns that into non-colo, which is post habeo first, which is give less priority to.
Haber, does anybody know Spanish?
Yeah.
So what is
To
haber? To haber is like to make,
To make, yes.
right? And habeas in
Habeas
Latin
is
is what?
habeas. Well, habeas corpus means literally out of body. So
No, it means there shall be the body. Because to have habeas
to
corpus,
make a body.
to make a body, it means
But
that,
then it's used as out of body as well.
yeah, because habeas in this sense means there must be the body. That was a very important law in the Magna Carta, when the Magna Carta was first set up, because people were being arrested and tried and found guilty and then killed without ever having known that they were being arrested. So there was a law that was put in saying there has to be the body, the person has to be present in court. And believe it or not, Labor, under Tony Blair, tried to get rid of habeas corpus, which is,
Oh, really? Yeah. Mm.
yeah. So habeas corpus means literally make the body present.
Be present.
Be present.
Okay.
So
Post habeo is to be not present.
is to be, it's like to run alongside the present without being in the present.
Yeah.
Without being, what's the best way of putting that? It's kind of like when you're having sex. I'm not sure if anybody's tried this before, so, I'm not trying to alter your minds too much, but if you know of anybody that's done this, maybe you've had conversations with them, where you're in the present, but you're also lost in the present. You're not really in the present. You're sort of somewhere else.
Out of body.
You're out of body.
Disembodied.
You're sort of disembodied, but it's a weird disembodied because you're in your body in a disembodied way. That's the great thing about orgasms. That's what's being pushed here, so you can get a sense. You're both in and not in the body. And the French are calling it little deaths, those
Yeah.
things.
Okay, so then it goes to non-colo, which is literally show no respect to. Although, I think there's actually, like in colo, there's anger, actually, because it's choleric. That's like the root for anger as well. So it's not just respect, it's
So it goes from hatred to
This
something
is
that's
still
very different. to
very
hatred.
different, but still the core is still anger.
The core is still anger.
There, choleric, and then down to make nothing of, nihil facio. So basically, he does this transition whereby, then I rewrote it because I found it easier to understand. If any man comes to me and makes nothing of his father and mother and wife and children, etc., and his own life, then he can be my follower, basically. So he has to be free from all attachment.
He has to be willing to give everything up.
But not hate them.
But not hate them.
Not hate them. That's like a wrong translation.
Yeah, that's right.
So
But at the same time, the anger that it will produce in you, because you feel lost, you feel abandoned, you are lost, you are abandoned, et cetera, you are in the traveling mode, and so on and so forth. In that moment, that's when you are at the moment of what he's going to call faith and what we can call here art. That's when you are in the moment.
And I think the most important thing of that, and I don't think I got that across in my essay, is the pair, is the alongside, is always, it's like what you're talking about, always being there but not quite there as well. So you're like almost looking down on it. It's sort of like being alongside.
Well, there's a critical distance.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's important because you're not looking down on it.
No, alongside though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if you get too, you always see the famous, pictures of the Frenchman with the beret, and he's looking at his artwork. Usually he's getting a critical distance so he can see it properly. This is where it's coming from, so this position. Okay, so now that's the first part of the essay. That's where you're starting to figure out the Kierkegaard aspect. Now you don't have to write, first part of the essay is Kierkegaard and the next part is, Foucault or whatever. But how does the Wicker Man play into this? What do you think? The 1974 version.
Well, it's that wild pagan kind of journey that is like a blind faith, but it's kind of led from somewhere beyond the rational.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen the movie yet?
I've seen bits of it, I've ordered it, I've got it.
Okay. It's also in the library, by the way. So, because the thing about the Wicker Man, I mean, I'll give away the ending, is they kill the guy.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's horrible. They
really
burn him
horrible.
to death.
It's-
And you see, the first time I saw it, I was I heard this was like an amazing film, and I raced out to see it, and I was so traumatized by this film because there was at that time no warnings that said
It's
you would be
horrible.
traumatized by
It
this
is
film.
so horrible.
Now, so the question is, I mean, The Wicker Man leaves you with this way of saying, okay, who has been the one that has suspended the ethical here? Because the policeman that comes in has to be a virgin, has to be somebody who totally believes in what he's doing. So he's coming at the thing the same way that the pagan community is coming at the problem. They're coming at this problem the exact same way from totally different angles, and one of them gets murdered. And it's not like Isaac and Abraham. It's not like the community is Abraham and he's the Isaac, and God doesn't intervene and he just ends up getting burned to death. But in fact, he is somebody that one is trying to, he's being played with, and he also thinks he's playing. Because in, quote, real life, well, not that Abraham and Isaac, maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't real, who knows. But in the Wicker Man version of life, which seems a little bit more real, things are messy, things are dirty, things are mean, things are horrible. So how is it that judgments can be made? That's what this is beginning to ask you. How is it, who's right in this?
Does it have to be a right, or can they just be being brought on this journey and this process?
Well, it does strike me that if someone is able to burn someone to death,
Yeah.
that's wrong.
In a cage as well. It's just
In a
horrible.
cage.
It's really.
But I mean, if you say that like that, there are cultures where if someone dies, the partner is meant to die with them, usually by fire, actually. Should
But
there-
you can say something's wrong, but wrong things still happen.
Oh yeah, that's true. No, it still happens. But that my question is, it's this question again about the teleological suspension of the ethical. So, for example, in the Hermann Nietzsche type of work, you've seen his work before.
Who?
Hermann Nietzsche, who like cuts open big cattle. They're hanging and they bleed, and he goes inside them and he swims around in the blood and stuff like this. It's totally ridiculous. He argues that, he doesn't even argue, he just says, this is art and this is what I think is art, and go jump in the lake if you don't agree with me. He's actually not as polite. And so the question is, not just is it art, but is that okay to do that? Should you be able as an artist to, I don't know, throw 12 rats off of a building and have them splatter onto the canvas below? Would that be art?
But the film, I suppose, no one's been harmed. It's like it's.
Well, no, somebody has been harmed. The guy gets.
But that's a story. It's not real. You can put anything in a film, and it's not real. Not like really dropping off rats off a building.
No, okay. But let's say it were real.
Oh, okay.
Let's say this was not a story about a fantasy. Let's say it was a real story.
Okay.
What would you think?
That's not good.
Not so good.
Not.
But they think that it is right. And
Exactly.
That's the thing.
That's
That's
the
that
thing.
faith thing, isn't it?
That's the faith. So it's asking you when, because this is how we started the course. Remember, we started the course with conviction. Did you write on conviction? I can't remember now.
Counts,
Someone wrote on conviction. Anyone want to admit to it?
because they're not just agreeing with it, they're joyfully, gleefully singing and dancing about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they're really, you know,
They're
dedicated.
really-
It's that night of faith thing, isn't it?
Yes.
It comes back to Kierkegaard's night of faith.
So why would a monotheistic God in the Kierkegaard's move be, let's say, the best way to go, and the pagan move, which does require the burning of somebody who's a virgin in the blood and blah, 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 be a bad way to go? I mean, in a lot of religions, the Jewish religion in particular, in this one, the golden lamb was being, what do you call it, worshipped. And there was a lot of sacrifice happening left, right, and center. I mean, if you go to, has anybody ever been to Mexico? First of all, I recommend it, okay? And if you go to Mexico, go on what's called the trail, isn't it? Oh my God, starts with a Y, the something trail, great. Anyway, I'll think of it later. And probably it's not interesting anymore. I did this move about 20 years ago when it was, like, not too many people did this. And you will find that, first of all, Spanish is the second language, but the Incas and the Aztecs and and there's another group with an M. The Mayans, yeah, good, thank you. They really believed in human sacrifice. And I climbed into a pyramid because I thought this would be a great idea at the time. It's like, mental note, don't do this. Went into the center of the pyramid where there was this kind of thing where they would lay out the person and rip the heart out and put the heart out on it. And then once, I don't know, the heart had done its thing, then the priest would crawl back out, and then you had to walk down the steps looking straight ahead to the steps of the pyramid. The pyramid was done in steps. And these steps were not very wide, they're about that wide. And it was the whole thing was psychologically, first of all, practice that. Practice looking straight ahead and walking down steps. Just see if you can do it. You know, it's actually, that's how you could be judged one way if you were actually a priest. You know, so I became obsessed with this, so I was like always walking. But the second thing is because the steps are so tiny, you could fall very easily, and of course there's no railings or something on the pyramid. And so there were a lot of tourists that were there that were like, had become paranoid and freaked out and were like stuck like flies on the side of the building. Now, there was a whole civilization that went for thousands of years that believed this was correct. So.
But I mean, the Celts had human sacrifice, definitely. I mean, there's evidence of it. There's a lot of evidence. In Avebury, there's a whole mound of bones that are all like deformed children and things, and it's just been part of it. It was part of our culture, we just lost.
But when Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son, because of the emotional bond,
Right.
this wasn't some detached sort of.
Good.
You know, it was his own
Good.
kind of self.
Okay,
he was
good.
putting on the.
Right, so it was a little bit of himself
Yeah.
that was being, quote, sacrificed.
Yeah.
But in fact, at the end, didn't have to be sacrificed.
No, but he was willing. And
But he was
went
willing.
Right up to the.
And isn't that somehow connected to what you have to be as artist? You have to be willing to do
Yeah.
that. And most people aren't willing to make that leap. Not really.
It's like Derrida talks about it in externalization and internalization, that you have to make that leap from one to the other.
So in that case, where does the Wickerman fall? Because he was obviously not thrilled about being sacrificed. You know, he didn't think it was a very good idea.
Well, it's very dualistic, the two schools, the pagans and the Christian. And they've got this kind of lack of empathy with each other, and lack of care, lack of love, connection. And so one is like tossing the other on the sacrificial pit. And that's not really kind of, one isn't involved of oneself.
So you could actually start your essay with that and show and show why that isn't what's being discussed. Okay, that's an idea. I was thinking, okay. Any other questions on that?
What about other kind of spiritual self-sacrifices like martyrs and people like that?
Good question. What about martyrs? What
Well,
do
I
you
think they're very interesting.
Yes.
You know, like Joan of Arc or all sorts of people like that.
There's a musician who was a woman who Hildegard von Bingen.
Yeah.
Do you know her
I've
work?
heard, and she sings or
She
chants.
chants, and she also she wrote amazing music. Actually, she wrote in the, I think it was in the 13th century, the 14th century, early centuries. And she was interesting because she was both she was one of the first monks. She wasn't really a nun, and she wasn't really not a nun. You know, she was like one of these kind of odd characters, and she had a lot of power as a religious figure. She was, like I said, she was this musician. She was a composer, and her work is very much about giving oneself over to God. So it's not really martyrdom, it's a different form of giving oneself over. So you could even develop in this argument how this relates to a very specific kind of religiosity, giving yourself over, the whole sort of nun-priest thing, which is, by the way, why not having sex in certain religious environments is a requirement, because that's seen as your sacrifice. And that's why everybody would get so upset if you were having a family, a sex, or whatever the story is. So that's a whole nother issue, you know, it's just like, what's the relation? Now, as this is connected with sex, and it's clearly, this is like the, not the bastardized version of it's, if you have a chance to read Bataille, which would come into this, Georges Bataille, Bataille, in his, I think it's Tears of Eros, but maybe not. He basically makes the argument that that the opposite of the profane, of being profane and being dirty and bastardized, this kind of thing, is not the sacred, it's mediocrity. So being mediocre is what is the opposite, and in fact he makes the argument that the profane and the sacred are the same. They're just the flip side of each other. So there's another way to take that essay.
What was it called? What about Georges Bataille?
It's either in Tears of Eros, E-R-O-S, or it's somewhere in his Visions of Excess. Visions of Excess is a book, which they're all in the library, which has about 12 essays in it.
Could they be put onto Dropbox?
They are, I think they are.
Visions of Excess is on there.
Yeah, Vision of Excess is on there, yeah. But the Tears of Eros isn't. Look at, do you know ARG?
Who?
ARG.
No.
It's like 5 A's. A-A-A-A-R-G, something like that. It might be 6 A's.
Yeah, it's
5.
5
Yeah, arg.org.
So it's always first.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Now, but not that it matters because it's got to be computer generated, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
It's very
oh well.
old-fashioned. Yeah.
Anyway, they are a great source to find books online. There's also Scribd, S-C-R-I-B-D. I don't know if you know this. Usually you have to upload something in order to get something of your own work, which I kind of like, actually. I kind of like that barter thing that goes on. So you can get these kind of books out. And there's also, it's VL something, that's if you have a Mac, VLO or something like that you have to put on your machine. Don't worry about it anyway. Okay, are you guys falling asleep? Are you still with me? You still there? Okay.
When you say that different ways to take this essay, presumably then there's not one way or
Right.
and it's because it seems pretty open from the questions, so
But that doesn't mean there's no right answer.
yeah.
It means that any answer that you can give that is able to hit all the points and make a coherent argument is the answer. Does that help you?
So, are there any more, anything else we could look at? Anything else to?
Well, if you don't think that the Wicker Man is a good straw dog example, but actually Night Porter would be very useful
Yeah,
as well.
that's also on the question, sorry.
Yeah.
As an alternative.
Yeah. But if you don't like either of those two, then something that would be equally dark and haunting would be good. You know what might be interesting? Have you ever seen Company of Wolves?
No.
Has anybody seen it? Company of Wolves? So,
I'm a film buff. I've watched every film go.
Company of Wolves was done by this woman named Angela Carter, and it's a kind of very different take on Little Red Riding Hood. very different. Totally recommend it. It's good to watch sort of late at night in an altered headspace with, you know, like, what?
Nothing.
Popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great film. It's one of these fairy tale films, but it's like the right Little Red Riding Hood. It's a feminist Little Red Riding Hood who really sort of has her act together, and kind of can tell when she's confronted with a wolf. She's not like thinking, "You look really odd." She's thinking, "I might have some of that." And so it's a very different story. Yeah, so it's worth taking a look at. Okay, can we?
The book as well as the film, or just the film?
Just the film.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a book.
Yeah, didn't she write a whole series of
Oh, maybe.
these, well, I read them years ago, and they were all kind of like dark. It was just before she
Oh,
died.
Angela Carter wrote a lot of dark
Yeah,
things.
dark,
No, she's great. Angela Carter, anything by
um,
Angela Carter is great. But no.
Fairy
The
tales.
film,
Right.
yeah, the fairy
Yeah,
tales
you
are
work
very
on it.
harsh.
Yeah, fairy tales.
But just the film or the book?
I would just look
like
at the
that?
film.
Okay.
Also, it's fun. We might as well do something other than get depressed over Christmas. Okay. Yeah, are you okay? And you can send me your drafts.
Over Christmas, email.
And can I just double check the deadline, because
It's whatever Henry said it is.
the 7th now.
Yeah.
I wrote back to him and I said, actually, it's the 9th for us. He said, no.
Yeah, no, he let me know that as well.
Oh.
Yes, it's the 7th. Yeah. The 9th is when your AHRC, if you're applying for PhDs, is required. Okay? Good.
They said earlier at that thing.
Yeah. Whatever date is on the thing, it's the 9th, the 7th, it's one of those days.
Well, they said we've got to do it before.
Yeah.
No?
You've got to give me, it's the 9th, thank you. And the other thing is, for those of you that are interested, if you can possibly put your project together so that it looks, so there's collaboration with at least one other of the consortium. So look at the other people in the consortium and see if there's anybody that you might want to work with. Like in your case, if you wanted to work in something with Nottingham in their cultural lab, it would be interesting. With forget it, Zax, or whatever her name is, Zix or something. Okay, actually I think it's Newcastle. They're not in the bid. Forget it. Anyway, okay. What's the next question? Which one are you doing?
3.
Yeah, Sarah,
Three?
you doing
Are
it?
we doing 3?
Yeah, I think one.
Oh, you're doing one. Okay.
She, I think, is doing 3 as well.
Jay, you're doing 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Anita,
No.
just hanging out.
Having fun.
That's good. I like that. Okay, Chi, how are you handling this question?
Yeah, I want to ask.
You know, for the longest time I was calling you Key, so that's really bad. So I'm really sorry. Okay.
So the poetry is the subject about the Auschwitz,
Yeah.
right? And there are 2 situations about the poets after the escape from the Auschwitz. One is they keep silent, and the other is suicide after they speak their treatments loudly. And so this means forget is a crime, and
This means what?
forget is a crime.
Okay, but more importantly, or as importantly, one part of that argument is that Adorno is making the argument that
Yeah.
capitalism.
And before Adorno saying these words, and he said to write poetry after Auschwitz is barbaric.
Yes.
And so, and then he correct his mistake. So
Well, not quite. He doesn't correct his mistake because he's Adorno. Adorno doesn't make mistakes. No, I'm just kidding. He does make mistakes. No, it's not that he corrects the mistake. It's that what's his main argument in negative dialectics? Really? Go for it.
No, I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to understand the words in the question and stuff like that. I don't know, like,
So you're not gonna take a guess?
Oh, what, about negative dialectics?
Yeah.
Or what, how I'd answer the question?
No, negative dialectics.
Um,
Like, what's his main argument in negative dialectics? He's got 3. Choose one.
no idea.
You have a secret idea. Jasmine, do you know? Something about objects and concepts.
Oh, the concept of the object to be the make that.
Okay, can you put that in a sentence? You got the words. Can you put them in the right order?
Did I not do it in the right order?
Well, you didn't have any verbs in there. Okay, so, want to try it with verbs?
Not really. I think that if you're
You're so
I know, I can feel it. I'm just very hungover. I'll try.
Did you go to the Christmas party last night as well?
Yeah.
You know, I went to the Christmas party and I was drinking that rum punch, and I have to say, maybe I have a wooden leg, but it didn't affect me at all. Not even a little bit.
I don't think there was very much alcohol.
It better have been, because I bought 2 bottles of rum that was meant to go in
Oh,
there.
well, probably, but there was a lot of sugar stuff in there.
Yes, it's very odd. Okay. Okay, what about the concepts and the objects? And the remainder. Those were the 3 points that you correctly identified the 3 points as under point number 1 of Adorno.
Okay, so if you're, so I don't know, I might not understand it. This is how I.
You do understand it. I've seen your work.
If you're trying to like describe something and the actual trying to be that is bigger than is the actual thing itself, and then there's the extra bit, which is it kind of
You're so close.
just from reading the book as well. Is it kind of, this is an actual question, not trying to.
No.
Is it that insoluble bit?
Something.
Is that?
Yeah, that's in
The
there too.
insoluble,
So
is
now
that-
you've got like many things with no verbs. Okay, got lots of nouns there. The insoluble something.
Is that to do with the leftover part?
It has to do with the leftover part.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. Or, so you have an object here,
Yeah.
a really bad, I'm so happy about this phone, you have no idea. Okay, so this is an object.
Yeah.
Now what would be the concept of this object?
The concept of
It's
your-
not, it's not a trick question.
what it is, like.
Yeah, what is this thing?
It's a phone.
It's a phone, so the concept of this object
Yeah.
is called phone.
Yeah.
Okay, and phone does not exhaust this object, does it? So the concept called phone goes into the object, but the object is left over,
Yeah.
right? As it were.
The object is much larger.
The object is bigger than the concept. For Hegel, it's the other way around, by the way. Don't forget that part. I know it's so irritating. Nothing like a headache. Okay? But for Adorno, because he's a Marxist, he wants to say that the object is always left over. Because at the end of the day, for Marx, or for Adorno, history is left over. And history becomes the ground around which this object makes sense, right? Okay, so now why is, Johnny happy with this phone? Why is this considered an important part of Adorno's negative dialectics?
Your phone.
Yes.
I.
You're doing very well.
Is it the fact that the way that I've kind of understood it, is it the fact that there's something that you can't get rid of, not can't get rid of, but the fact that there is that extra something that
Mhm.
is something that kind of continues on.
Good. And what is that extra something? The indissoluble something.
Something about like humanity or people or
So close.
that.
You can't speak.
Oh.
Yasmin?
You make me put my glasses.
I know, isn't it great how your mind just goes?
Yeah.
Is this room?
It's like a subject versus task.
Thank you.
Is it something that can't be spoken of? Which is,
So close, we're getting back to this question.
yeah,
Okay, go on.
but that's what you carry forward.
Yes?
Is that what she said?
She said it's something that can't be spoken of.
Ah,
That's
Is it? It is. Hey, Wendy. Yes, you're on. Yes, yes, I will send it to you. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if it'll work for research, but let's give it a go anyway. Yeah. Okay. See, I do, and I just have been slow at this. Brilliant. Okay. Okay. Bye. Sorry. Did you speak amongst yourself and come up with the answer?
I think is it excess and the sort of pain and the dirt and all that side? It's sort of like
Okay, so Adorno argues that capitalism produces something. What does it produce?
Mass.
mass.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's not what he argues.
No,
That's
I-
what Johnny argues.
He,
That's what Marx
he
argues.
says that
What does it produce?
Is it kind of a way of, like, yeah, mass, but also the way of doing kind of like
sameness,
Racism.
sameness and
Yeah.
racism, yeah.
And how does it do that? How does it do that?
Because everybody has to agree, everyone has to be the same. Like the people who are
But
on the edge.
We're living in a capitalist economy right now. Do you have everybody agreeing with you?
no, does it make like another kind of situation?
Yeah.
Competition.
Okay, so competition, there's other. You and the nouns. You're right. It is other.
I don't really know what a noun is.
Objects.
Alright.
And you do make objects.
Yeah.
You're obsessed with nouns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eight verbs.
That's right. No verbs, only nouns.
It creates a kind of proliferation, and the mass does.
Or division, separation.
So close. Annika. Anita.
No.
She.
No.
Sarah.
No,
certainly not.
Okay, Dane, want to give it a go?
Doesn't it require sort of
So annoying. I just want you to know that he was like you last year. Okay, just okay.
Does it require sort of the us and them? So when you try, in order for the us to be a totalized
Us.
us,
Yeah.
it has to marginalize the them and then eventually just cut them loose entirely and get rid of them.
Final solution.
Yeah.
Well done. Good. Well, not good, but yes. Yay, we came to a final solution. Okay, something's very wrong in this class now. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to step back again. So that's kind of harsh, the final solution.
Mm.
So when you come up with the way in which you're going to develop your argument, one thing to come up with is the way in which this thing called totality operates. And then how it is that, and totality is a concept, for example, and how the concept can be a universal, but it always has something left over. And what it has left over is this objective something. Except it's not an objective thing like my phone that's left over, although this is clearly left over because there was a time when this was very expensive and I got this for free. Very proud of myself. Okay, okay. Anyway, so for something to be left over that is not really the object, what does he call that? Starts with an N.
An N.
An N.
This.
It's a noun.
A negative.
the negative. Okay, well
I
done.
thought it was a trick question.
You see? N, the negative. So the negative isn't brought in somehow, but it's an object. Got it? I was looking at her footnote. This is tough, this is hard. Okay. And now, that will be another part of the question that you're answering. That bit, which is more or less in the sort of middle part. And then there is the question of poetry. Now, what is poetry? Are we gonna have like little haikus or rhyming slang or something? Is that what he's talking about? Must have rhyming slang, stairs and pairs, or whatever, is it pairs and stairs? No. Does anybody know Cockney?
Cockney, yeah.
Rhyming.
Yeah, rhyming
Rhyming
slang. So
Apples
it's
and
pears?
pears.
Apples and pears, that's it, apples and pears. It's stairs. You must explain this to G. Do you know Cockney?
Do you know rhyming slang? No.
It's an acquired taste, let me tell you. I didn't know it either.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It's
I love
brilliant.
rhyming slang.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. But what it means is like if you
If
If
you're
I'm
dead,
somebody knows
if you're
this.
dead, you're pan bread. If you're, and there's loads of it. You can just go on
Wife
and
is
on.
at trouble and strife.
Yeah.
trouble and strife, yeah. Yeah.
As masses, I use it all the time. But then I grew up in the south, so we used it a lot.
Anyway, so we're not talking about that kind of poetry.
No.
Obviously, since you didn't even know about that kind of poetry, it's not really a tragedy that we're not using it. But what is he talking about poetry? Moves us into the table on this side. What type of poetry is he talking about? Yes. And what is another way of calling that word?
Imagination.
No, it starts with a P.
Passion.
No?
Oh.
Hangman. That's with P. Probably spelled it wrong. Take a guess. You gotta try with a vowel. E.
What are we doing again? Sorry. Don't look at me like that. But it's my phone just keeps going and I
See?
couldn't ignore it.
Your phone keeps going because don't you have one of these old phones?
Yeah.
And it still does that.
You can't open it and see who it is, and I thought it might be one of my kids, but it's okay. It's fine. Okay. Sorry. Carry on.
So
Please
what,
just tell me what we're doing. Which word are we looking for?
we're looking for this word.
No. What is it?
That's what I'm asking you to find out.
What are we defining?
This word.
No. What was the question, please?
What is
It
poetry?
goes down my
It's not
mystery.
what is poetry?
What is it?
What type of thing is he asking you to look at?
Pleasure. No, that wasn't it.
Actually, I
You're no good at hangman.
could be. Yeah, I put it in the wrong spot. So.
Okay. N. T.
What?
H.
H? What word are you thinking about with an H?
I haven't guessed the whole word. I just thought maybe there
S, S.
Wait, just a second. In the future, when you're playing hangman, vowels, there's only 5 of them, okay? So honestly. Yes.
I.
Police.
Yes.
Paris. Ceres. Green.
What is that? You were right.
Well, it's
You
poetry.
guessed it.
It's
But
poetry.
what type of poetry?
It's like high poetry, isn't
It's
it?
like high poetry. That's right. No. Yes. What does it mean to say high poetry? What is Heidegger meaning when he's saying poesis?
It's like expressing art in them.
So close.
Is it like some affirmation of meaning?
So close.
The
Yes.
soul is like
No.
No.
No
I
souls.
didn't say that. Okay. Oh.
I don't know what poesis means. I've never heard it, but what I thought they were talking about with poetry was kind of more like self-expression and questioning, and that is that not?
But it's not like Adorno could care less about self-expression and questioning in that sense, because it has to be a little bit more rooted. We're talking about 6 to 7 million people gassed, killed, part of your family, this kind of thing. So he's not really talking about go out and find yourself.
Yeah.
He's not talking about that kind of poetry. What's he talking about? What's he saying about, what is he asking of people?
How do you still feel that life does have a meaning?
Yes! And how can you?
And moving, like moving.
And moving. And what type of moving? Okay, forward, yes. Or perhaps backwards.
Just moving on, just picking yourself up and getting
No,
on.
because you can pick yourself up and move and not feel a darn thing, right? Especially if you're depressed. So what's he requiring? What's he saying is required? You face really something horrific, really horrific, and it might be your own private Auschwitz. You found something really awful. How do you carry on?
You have to encompass
Apart from
it.
therapy, yes.
You have to somehow expand to somehow move forward with it.
You have to do the
Express
grounding,
it.
don't you? You have to
You have to
go
express
forwards
it.
and round and back again. So
Yes.
You come back to the ground.
And how is it that it gives you something worth living for? Because all these people have died and you have managed to survive. All these people have had, genital mutilation, let's say. That's the, newest thing on the block, or not so new on the block. All these, women and men have been sexually assaulted in wars or wherever, or even in families. How do you move on from that? How do you do it?
Through understanding and empathy, or no?
Nope. He's talking about poesis. What does it mean?
Well, using your imagination. It's like,
Yes. And if you plug back into the imagination, why does he think that that's going to save you, or save all of us?
Because it's got the expansion or the breadth or the spaciousness that doesn't leave you locked into the kind of horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he goes to Freud for that. Big clue about this thing. He goes to, he's a critical theorist. He goes to psychoanalysis. He goes to the question of the unconscious and the way in which sexuality and art create ways in which you can negotiate your horrible, paltry life.
So the unconscious is a resource and a spiritual resource.
And not just spiritual. Unless if you're using spiritual to mean like imaginative, in that sense, yeah. It's very important. Aren't you glad you're doing this question? Are you going to be able to write the essay with nouns? I mean, with verbs. You're going to help her. Does that make sense? Now. Like, for example, let's look at your work. Your work is quite amazing, actually, in a lot of ways. The level of anger that's in there and the level of sort of perfectness in your animations and so on. No, it's very,
It's amazing.
it's
your
amazing
work.
work. It's amazing work. However, you don't understand your work. The good news, the bad news, same news. You don't realize, you realize it on deep down, deep. But there's another layer that you don't quite get this. Okay, now, pretend, or don't pretend, that what you're going through in order to produce the kind of stuff you're doing upstairs is both very painful and at the same time giving you some sort of distance so that you can deal with this pain, because there's a lot of pain in that work. It's very clear. I'm not trying to embarrass you, in front of the thing. So you've had to negotiate precisely what Adorno is talking about. And I'm asking you to write that in your work, to really allow yourself to tap into it. to see how it's guided you. So it becomes not just something that's in your unconscious, but that you actually get.
As an exit.
Yes.
Yes.
Because it's not just a journey,
Yeah. It's like an exit, yeah.
it is an exit. The question is where you're getting off from. You know, what's your stop that you're getting off at? It's a complex one. So this is your question, actually, sadly. The good news, the bad news. Okay, yes?
Just when I was like reading and stuff, what did you mean discuss in relation to continuity and discontinuity?
What did I mean by this?
Well, what does that? I don't understand about that.
Well, let's think about it. Chi, you want to take a stab at it? Continuity and discontinuity? Now! Okay, let's think of it this way. If you hadn't come here, I'm going to pick on you now. If you hadn't come here to this country,
Yes.
if you hadn't left wherever you've left from, what would you, if you had done a normal route, a normal thing that you were expected to do growing up, what would that be?
Normal thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, just in real life.
You would just be able to enjoy life.
Yes.
But in China, what would you be doing?
The specific thing or
Yeah, the
job.
specific thing, like job, like
Yeah.
if you know, you're born, then you
Then
grow.
I think except earning money, a lot of money, then enjoy life. That's my goal. Yes, I learned art for this too. So
But if you hadn't left, because you're not making a lot of money right now,
yeah.
okay, so that's a choice that you decide to make. So you decided to step off the road that you were on. So the road that you're on is continuous. You could even say it's teleological. But the road that you're kind of on at the moment, though maybe not, is discontinuous. I'm going to try with Anita. Anita, you didn't need to be here, right? You were just here as an interloper. Now, if you hadn't gone to art school, or if you hadn't gone to school, what would you be doing? Have you broken the mold in your family, or have you gone as they expected you to do?
A bit of both.
Okay, and
Split. I would have been lost, I think.
right, and why would you have been lost?
Because I haven't found.
Because you haven't found what you want.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, if you were expected to do what your parents wanted you to do and only what they wanted you to do, what would that be?
What would the thing be?
Let's say you're between the age of, let's say, 20 and 30, between
Yeah.
some age. You're like 20, 26 or something like that.
Older.
You're older than that. Whatever you are. Let's say you're between 20 and 26. I don't do age. Okay, so whatever age you are. Okay, now, in some places, that would be considered very old, particularly for females. Okay, do you have kids? Okay, so you're like an ancient creature, right? Because you don't have children. Because there is the thought that at the age of between 17, let's say, and 22, you're expected, or you would be expected to have children, be married, do something with yourself, constructive. You didn't do that path. That would have been a continuous path. You broke that path. Now, the good news, the bad news, same news. You broke the path. You kind of know what you're doing. You really don't know what you're doing. Right? Same with everybody in this room. Everybody in this room has broken the path. I mean, when I was growing up, I grew up in a military family. My father was, the idea that any female would go to university was like the only thing you could think of. And he was a very educated man. The only thing you could think of is the reason you go to university is to talk to your husband. So, okay, 2 problems. And so then he got very excited about the idea because I was so butch as a kid. In fact, my nickname was Goldbrick, which is totally hilarious. Anyway, looking back on it, he was totally ecstatic when he thought I would go into the military. Yeah, and I would have been great in the military. I mean, all those gadgets, you know, flying planes and doing things like that, you know, the negative side, dropping bombs on people and things, but you know. So when he was very disappointed when I didn't go to the military. That was the other option. You know, you can get married and talk to your husband, or given who you are, you can go to the military. That'll be good. I was like, okay, there's lots of problems with these two solutions that you've come up with, neither of which I'm going to do. You know, and it was a problem for them. It was a problem for me too, because it was a problem for them, but blah, blah, blah. So you're on a path. The path creates a continuity. You break from that path, you have a discontinuity. Now, maybe the discontinuity becomes your path, right? In which case, you go nuts, or you figure out how to make that work. Now for Adorno, he never got out of dialectical thinking, so his thing was to kind of go back into thinking how the dialectic would make it work, make that discontinuity become a continuous discontinuity. So the indissoluble something for Adorno becomes the little, let's say, answer to how to make that discontinuity into a pattern without it making it into a continuous pattern. And therefore going back to the old status quo. Does that make sense?
Can you just say it again?
Yeah.
Is this being filmed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it being filmed? Oh, well done. Dane. Excellent.
I just got really random words in for it.
Well, you know, surprise. No surprise. No verbs. You know, no adjectives. Okay. So the indissoluble something becomes for Adorno a conceptual placeholder that allows for the discontinuous to repeat itself so that the closure of the total doesn't happen. And because the closure of the total doesn't happen, there's a possibility of preventing fascism. Because fascism is precisely this closure of the us and the them that Dane very eloquently pointed out earlier. Got it?
Yeah.
That's why I'm not doing that question.
Okay, okay. Can we go on from that question, or are we still with that question?
Just when because he writes quite a lot about concretion, I think it is. Is that the solidifying of
Concreteness.
Is that a word? I don't know.
Concretion's an interesting word, though. It's a new one.
Okay.
A new noun. Hey.
I like the sound of it, concretion.
Yeah, it could be something between wax and concrete or something, or maybe plaster of Paris or something. Yeah, go
Well,
on.
it's setting.
Yes, that's right. That's why it's setting exactly.
No, it's like your grease box that you draw and you build a hole in.
All right, let's focus, everybody. Okay, let's
Is
get
that
off.
when they're talking, is that kind of referring to the totality setting and then becoming, or is that just, or I didn't know if that's just the word you used.
The totality setting.
Not setting, but you know, you just said about
See,
what.
here's the problem. You gave her this idea of like the setting. Don't go there.
Okay.
Don't go there. What does it mean?
Well,
What this word concrete? What does concrete mean?
it means like, that's what I meant, like, something becoming like hard and kind
No.
of.
It's the opposite of abstract.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's to do with the senses and the dirty and the kind of realm where it's not.
No.
No.
It has to do, because abstract can also do with senses. It has to do with, that which is concrete is the fully formed version of the concept. So for example, there's nothing left out of your concept, then it's concrete. So the simplest version is all that there is plus all that there's not taken together is the whole world. That's an example of a concrete concept, because you can't add anything else to that concept, although it turns out you can. But for the sake of this example, because what does Adorno add to that concept? In fact, what does Hegel add to the concept?
The edge, the
No, it starts with an N.
negative,
Negation.
negation.
You
Nothing.
could do.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Negation. Yeah. Good.
Is that the maybe a strip bit or not?
And how do you mean that? It could be the Mobius strip.
That all that there is one side and all that there's not is the other side. And then they
Leave out the Mobius strip in that example. All that there is plus all that there's not, taken together, is Johnny's phone. And there's nothing else left about this phone, in or out. That's a concrete, universal concept. Who knew this would be so helpful? Okay, are we done with this question? Okay. What question are you on? You're on 2. We're getting to get yours, Sarah, don't worry. Okay. No pressure.
I'm doing great.
I'm thinking I'm going to do 3 now.
Okay, what is 2?
I thought it's just that.
No, literally, what is 2? What is the question?
Whether what is degenerate art and what Adorno means when he says art is the rebuke that is degenerate art, because it doesn't abide by the law of nature, the iron law of nature, and you have to discuss that in the role of doubt and reason, identity, and a dirty sensuous quantity, and structural limits.
So if you could discuss it any way you wanted, what would you start out with? How would you begin the story of the degenerate? Have you ever been called degenerate? We're gonna work on that.
Degenerate, that's corrupt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like challenging, art is challenging. Art questions, has that doubt within it.
So close. Yes, go on.
Continues to ask questions that aren't answerable.
Okay, that is maybe degenerate, but it's certainly annoying if someone's wanting an answer, right? I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that's degenerate art. Degenerate means something else. Is there something else going on if you're called a degenerate? Nobody's walked down the street and someone yelled at you calling you a degenerate? You haven't lived until you've been called a degenerate. Have you been called a degenerate? Really?
I have, many times. Many times. But I think it's
Okay, I feel better now, at least 2 of you. Okay. Right, go on.
It's to do with challenging the status quo, isn't it?
Yes. And why would that get you tagged as a degenerate?
Because those norms kind of somehow create a sort of a pure space. There's a pure space and a dirty space, and it puts you in this safe, pure space if you can stick to these norms.
Yes. You understand that? No, you don't. You're just saying yes.
Well,
How do you understand that? I'm not trying to embarrass you. I don't mean to like.
No, you don't.
I just mean. I don't believe you.
because art doesn't have a value in the way that in the world there is value in capitalism. There's that kind of.
But art does have a value. Have you been following Sotheby's lately? I mean, some of these people, who was it that just sold something? It so annoyed me. It was like 130,000 pounds. It was somebody who found, it was, what's her name? Jane Austen. They found a painting, or the family had a portrait of her, so it was like this big. It went for 130,000 pounds. And it's gonna be on the stamp of the 10-pound note or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the family couldn't afford to buy it. That's why it was sold. Now I find that just, the country, our country couldn't, or this country couldn't buy it. So somebody's bought it, for 130,000 pounds. I should live so long. So now, so art does have a value.
Yeah, but
Have you Googled degenerate art Nazis?
no.
Try it. I went to an amazing show by accident in Portugal. This is before the child was stolen. I don't go to Portugal until they find her. Okay, privacy. And this was on Nazi art, on the and the Nazi relationship to. That's how that question got formulated in my mind. Plus, the fact Daniel Rubinstein helped formulate that question. But anyway, and it's amazing what comes under this thing called degenerate art. When you look at what the Nazis actually had, whole pamphlets explaining exactly what it was, pictures. So anything that was jazz was degenerate art. It was considered black art or Jewish art or, I don't know, something wrong with it art.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
But, so when you said, do you want us to refer to that era, or can you just, when you say someone else's outlet,
Mhm.
discuss it?
Like, for example, you know Ai Weiwei's work.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ai Weiwei, Aiwei, Ai Weiwei,
Say that again. AI.
AI space, Wei, Ai Weiwei. He's right now under house arrest in China because he's has a tendency to drop vases that are like Ming Dynasty vases.
But he also
His whole
blogs
thing.
the whole time. He
Yes.
won't stop
I
blogging,
know,
and
it's
it
fantastic.
drives them insane.
Yeah, it's
He won't
fantastic.
shut up.
And he's considered a degenerate artist. So you don't have to go back to Nazis to find the degenerate artist. And the question is, what is meant by this thing degenerate here?
Yeah, it's like pushing boundaries.
It is pushing boundaries. But that would be a very short essay. Yeah, it's like pushing boundaries. Love you. Bye. Right, so you gotta, what do you think is the meat of that question? Like, I think of Sarah in her purple arm, I saw the other day, or whatever color that was, this goo on your arm, and you had like a little sheet on or something. Now, there are people in the world, if you step outside of art school, who would think that was unbelievable on like 22 different levels. But one of those levels could absolutely be read as degenerate. That's why I'm amazed you didn't think of yourself as being degenerate. You aren't being degenerate,
No,
but you are being degenerate.
Yes.
You know, you're totally, I mean, you're just not following the rules. I mean, hello. You know, so, I mean, example, you could use her work, it'd be perfect. You know, and that will get you into trouble. You know, if you've already been not invited to dinner parties, have you had that experience yet?
Oh, yes.
Because you're a bit of a threat.
Yeah.
I imagine you, the
Yes.
threat person. This is Sarah, lovely Sarah. She's considered a complete threat, you know, by a certain type of group of people. It's incredible, right? So the question is, why does that work for art? I'm trying to put a positive spin on this. Why does it help to have this thing called degenerate going on in your work?
Because that sort of safe, pure space is
Are you going to write all the questions? Answer all the questions. I can see this. Yes.
It's limited. It's a concept and it's limited. It's not free. It's not juicy.
So, see, that's one of the criticisms someone could make of your work if they didn't understand what you were doing, Chief. They could see your work as illustrative. And illustration tends to not be juicy, not break those bounds. You know, so that's not to say you can't do animation as art, exactly the reverse. It's to say that animation, I don't know if you've seen the Eames work down at Parkside. Have you seen that yet?
No.
Walk down to Parkside, see Eames' work. It's great.
Yeah.
Forget his first name. Is it Brian?
Ian.
Ian Eames? No.
It's Ian.
Something ordinary.
Something ordinary is hilarious. IAMES. Walk down there, and if you don't like his work, I'll be amazed.
It's there in there, in Parkside.
It's in Parkside. You spoke about it yesterday. Anywho, okay. So there's something about staying within the, when you were a child, when everyone was a child at one point in their life, right? You may still be a child. You may still be aiming to be a child, which is my thing. Did you ever color within the lines? Do you ever have something that stayed within the lines? Okay, you really couldn't call that art. I mean, your parents might have said, that is beautiful. My daughter, the artist, but it's not really. And in fact, there's something about schools that try and teach you to stay in the lines. And if you go outside the line, you get a little rap on the knuckles. Well, not these days, because you'd be arrested as a teacher, but, but, I mean, I grew up with the left-hand ability to write, and I was like, chop it off. Get right with that left hand, get right with this hand. So if you stay in the lines, something really great will happen to you, which is that you'll become a model citizen. But you won't become an artist. So there's a question about breaking the mold. It's the good news and the bad news. You break the mold, there's no safety net. So good luck. So know what you're doing when you break the mold. Of course, you don't know what you're doing when you break the mold because you think, oh, if I just push this, what will happen? And the whole thing blows up. Okay, yeah, so that's a bit of a challenge, mold challenge we could be dealing with. Do you see where you can go with this question then? Now.
But it says it in relation to what Adorno says.
Yes, tricky part.
But then you ask, because we're discussing Descartes and how.
Yes,
things-
Arendt.
Yes. And you're asking it to be in relation to what he thinks.
Sort of. It's not just your opinion, but on the other hand, it's not just saying, well, here's what Adorno says. How do you break the mold? How do you know that you're breaking the mold, for example, and you're not just being a pain in the neck, which you could also be being? How do you know if you're good, if you're actually doing something that's going to work? What's required from the Cartesian position? What would be required to know? And he gets, Descartes gets into this whole. Yeah, excellent. So doubt is going to figure into this. It already is in it, right? Now, have you ever been in a position where you doubt yourself? Good. That's good. That's good. And that you admitted it on the World Wide Web is fantastic. Okay, no, it's good. It's very important. Because when you doubt yourself, when you really doubt yourself, what happens? Do you get paralyzed, or what happens to you if you really start doubting yourself?
I think an alternative.
Wow, you had a good upbringing then. So if you start really doubting yourself, you think of an alternative. This isn't a trick question, I'm really asking.
I don't know, because
Okay. What about Anita? Have you ever doubted yourself?
All the time. All the time.
All the time. And how do you deal with that?
Try to change it and come up with.
come up with an alternative.
Yeah,
that you
think
do
how I
have
got
to
there,
say, yeah.
what I can do different, what different direction I can go.
Yeah, good.
I think all artists doubt all the time.
Yes.
You hate your work after you've done it. It's like you love it for a bit and then you think, oh no, it's
And before
really
you
load of
start.
shit.
That's right.
Yeah, before you start it, it's brilliant. It's going to be
No,
brilliant.
it's
and then,
horrible.
I know, I love that bit. That's the best bit.
And then you start.
Then you start.
Are you part of that group that if you're invited to a party, it's probably a terrible party? You're not part of that type of crowd, are you?
No.
No, good. I'm worried. So the doubt is helpful up to a certain point, but if you doubted yourself so much, you wouldn't get a lot done. So that would be the next problem. How to rein in the doubt, how to pull it in, how to make it work for you, as opposed to make it paralyzed. people who are in enslaved environments or domestic violent environments, this kind of thing, often internalize a very strong sense of doubt, so that it's almost, it seems impossible to be able to break out of something. Or in fact, it is impossible depending on the situation. So that you are able to A, acknowledge that you have doubt, and B, learn how to work with it. This is a tool that you will always find helpful. So that's what that question is asking you to think through. And how does Adorno then develop that argument with relation to, let's say, attacking fascism? It's going so well, and now it's not. What do you think? Is that just?
Yeah, because that's what I think art does.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And how does it do that?
By raising kind of questions that aren't.
Okay, but
questioning.
But at the moment, then your essay is going to be like 7 lines long. So how are you going to really put some meat onto that?
Well, this artist, this one artist that I think kind of encapsulates, well, I think questions kind of fascism has this kind of political spin to them, but they do it in a way that the mother, it's a sort of film when the mother is, he questions his mother, and then the film has no sound, so he has to go to some deaf mutes and get them to work out what the mother's saying, and then he relays it back to her, and she can't believe that she said it because it's a different era.
And who is this artist?
Annie Sala.
And so you're going to use this artist's work to make this point?
Yeah.
Interesting. So you're going to do the relationship between silence, mute, enlightenment, doubt. Okay. Might have a few more things in that.
Yeah. And the fact she doesn't believe what she said when it has the subtitles of what she said in that particular moment about like this is the civilizations that they're living in, but then later on in the film she just goes back to the same kind of way. And that change.
Interesting. Very good.
In relation to how he has attacked that kind of story.
Okay, that's good.
But through his mother and that kind of
Okay, that's not bad.
I thought
So what are the questions you have on your question?
the dirty centers transgressive, disruption of limits.
Yeah? And why is it dirty? Why is sex considered dirty?
Because we repress it, but we don't talk about it.
Right, so there's a repression question going on in there, which might lead you into Freud.
Can I just ask about...
Oh, you're not doing this question too, are you?
No, but Freud came up in question 5 as well. Is it always Freud? What about Jung?
I'm hesitant for you guys to use Jung because Jung is a very different animal than Freud, and he often gets lumped together, and he's as complex as Freud is. So Jung is talking about a collective and conscious and this kind of thing, but I think that the work tends to, I mean, and this is like very broad strokes, tends to anthropomorphize things, which I mean by that, it seems to create, it's almost like culture has a personality, or it has like a way of seeing, or it tends to create it into kind of like a person, and anthropomorphizing something. It makes it seem like it has a human intention. And I think that it doesn't do that, or anyway, there's an argument that it doesn't do that. But I think to understand it as fully as you need a few weeks on it. And that's why, I mean, it's the same thing about, so it's a choice, Freud, Jung. I think Freud, you'll get more mileage out of at the moment. That's why. That's the real reason, yeah? Did you have a question? No.
Sorry, no, I'm just holding my pen out.
Okay, question number 1.
Yeah. Can I
Ah!
have paper? Thank you very much. If I read it.
Yeah?
In Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit, an argument about subjectivity as something distinct from but linked to objectivity is addressed via dialectical synthesis. Please discuss his development of these two concepts, first explicating the role of the nothing, no thing, in relation to the thing by relying on, in particular, the preface and introduction. In what way or ways is this linked to A, negation, B, conscience, C, the ethical, D, art? How would Kierkegaard's teleological suspension of the ethical have bearing, or not, on this dialectically teleological approach to subjectivity? Bonus. How would the contemporary move towards speculative realism and object-orientated ontology connect, or not, with the Hegelian approach?
And you're doing this.
I'm going to try.
Well done, you.
I thought it was the most philosophical question.
It is.
So
That
I
is
thought I'd
correct.
have a go. So, yes, help.
That's right. Okay, the only thing that's missing in that question is basically the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
you know.
Yes, well, I kind of...
So the hard thing about that question is going to be getting everything you want to say in
In-
5,000 words
yes.
or less,
Yes.
not more.
No.
Okay, because you're not writing a thesis.
No.
And so the tough part about that question, apart from the question itself, is that it's asking you to
Huge amount.
a huge amount. So you have to be pretty confident.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. But I thought it actually helped because, in fact, because it's been broken down in such a way, it actually kind of gives me my sections.
Yeah, it gives you
that
your markers.
It gives
Yeah.
me markers that
Yeah.
I can work to, which
If you were a PhD student, you wouldn't have those markers. You would
I'm not.
I'm just saying. But this is the
Yes.
difference between an MA
Yes.
and a PhD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you begin this?
Well, I've kind of written kind an opening that deals with Hegel's argument about subjectivity and how that relates to dialectics and the dialectical synthesis, and I brought some art in there as
Which art?
as well.
Your art.
My art.
Good.
Um,
And how you brought it in?
as a way of an example of no.
Don't bring it in as an example.
Okay.
Don't ever use
Bring your-
art as an
okay.
example.
Okay.
You can use it as a comment that's
Okay.
saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But I very worry, you've done this to me. I'm now going to leave out nouns. No, I'm leaving out verbs. No, I get worried when we do philosophy or practice-based stuff, because I worry that either there's too much practice and no theory, or there's too much theory and it places a model onto an art piece of art. So I would suggest that you either begin with your purple arm, A, and see where that takes you in relationship to, or even the naked being in the box
Yeah.
kind of thing. Not that you are trying to pretend that you're a negation,
Yeah.
so don't go there, but just the way in which that's operating as a work of art. And then parallel it to what Hegel's doing with his notion of a work of art. Now, to do that is the core of what you'd be doing. And you could either start off like that, or you'd start off with the actual phenomenology, and you'd say, well, here's how the dialectical thing is established. You show that, nothing, something, that whole thing, and you get into the whole movement, and then you go to your purple R. Do you think she can do it?
Yeah.
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 I'm going to do my
Fair,
try. I have a son-in-law who's a physicist,
Oh, good.
but he's read quite a bit,
Okay.
and I'm going to spend 2 weeks with him arguing this as well.
Well done.
So I hope that's acceptable, that I am going to be, arguing the case with him to try and understand more fully.
Of course, I said, why wouldn't it be acceptable?
Well, I don't know.
You still have to write the paper.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
yeah.
So, however you get to it, that's fine.
Okay.
Brilliant. Well, I have a student who's married to a physicist, and she has less luck making her points
Yeah.
in philosophy. So if you find yourself up against a wall, call Dane.
Okay.
He will help you. He's our resident physicist, even though he doesn't know that yet. Well, you kind of know it.
He's brilliant.
Okay,
Yeah.
now.
Can I ask a question about using our art as well?
Mhm.
Because see, originally I was going to submit my film, but I'm not really sure now with it. So, as an example of continuity, discontinuity.
No examples.
Not as an example, as a statement on continuity, discontinuity.
Well, the difficulty is, and here's, I'm glad you raised it, because the reason I don't like the reason I don't like artwork being submitted with something unless it's saying the same thing, is that it might make the work, it might reduce the work too literally. So the continuity is, let's say, the walking, and the discontinuity is the intersection of the image of the young child.
No, but I wouldn't, no, because
Good.
the film doesn't exist like that anyway.
Okay.
The film is just me walking, that's just
Okay,
the
right.
actual,
Okay,
The film is just the walking backwards, forwarding, turning. All
Yeah.
that, so,
that would make sense. No train.
no, it's not in the fucking train's gone.
Okay.
Didn't you watch the thing?
I
There
did
was
watch the
no
thing. Well, I
train.
also watched it with the other layer on top, so, you know, to say, no trains.
Well, like, you've actually got the digital copy without the. Did you get that one? Did
Yeah.
you pick that up?
Yeah?
Okay.
No?
No. Did
No, I
Henry
saw
take it?
Yeah. Henry must have taken it. It wasn't there when I saw it.
You can scan the code. You can do code.
Okay. Yeah, well, not now. Not on this phone.
No, but on your iPad you can.
Oh, okay.
You
Try
set
that.
one up.
Okay,
I'll give you it.
thank you.
No, because you have to see it, otherwise. You have to see the original. And are we getting am I getting feedback from you or Henry?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of your projects,
Uh,
in terms of the API ones or whatever. they're called.
yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Is it tomorrow? Or you're not here tomorrow?
I'm not here tomorrow, but Henry's definitely, absolutely.
Well, who do I get it from?
I don't know.
Because I kind of fall under this sort of nothingness, where I'm neither one thing or the other. So
That's not true.
that's sick then, huh?
That's right. Then I die. No.
No, I just go into another dimension.
That's right.
Alice.
See, that's not so bad. Did you ever see the film Pan, I think it's called, or it's something like that with a P? It's a story where it's a little story where the girl goes into a wall, and she ends up in a fascist environment. It's a really incredible story.
Well, that's really like a book I just read. You know the one I was talking about that's like, it's written by a woman as well, and it's all about hacking. And these hackers kind of make this extra dimension. It's
Huh.
quite interesting. They can go between walls. It's that kind of idea thing we were talking about. The extra, what is it, fourth dimension.
Cool.
Mm.
No, absolutely submit your work. That would be great.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions?
And can I write less words then?
Sure.
Cool. How many less?
Three.
I knew it was something like that. And.
That's right. You can take out one noun. You can give it to Millie. As a present.
I've got loads of names.
That's right. No more nouns.
Only the speculative realism.
Okay.
There's a lot up on the web at the moment about speculative realism.
Yeah.
Should I try and engage with some of that as well as the paper that was done in Oxford with the three?
Just look at the paper.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Just look at there's actually one it's called Speculative Realism.
Yes.
Look at that paper. Okay. In fact, I think it's on the Dropbox.
Yeah.
Is it on the Dropbox?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I got it anyway, so.
What that question is asking you to think is, in a contemporary environment, how does Hegel still operate, basically? Does he still operate? Is it still valid?
I'm not sure I got this email.
You're not gonna do one, are you?
No, I'm sticking with 5. But
She can do all of them.
That's right.
I don't think I got the email with the extended question because well, on this handout, it's the short version of the question.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And then there was a segregated one which was a tiny bit longer, which mentioned which texts to look.
It added, please discuss in relation to Kierkegaard, Derrida and Freud.
And you got one that didn't say that?
Well, I don't think I got the email at all.
Oh, I'll resend it.
Thank you.
Huh,
I'm
is
not
that true?
sure I always get everything.
I didn't get that.
No, I didn't get
I
that
didn't
one.
get any
Did
amendments.
Grace
on
send
there.
it? Grace sent it.
No, I didn't get that.
Okay,
On my
nobody's gotten the questions?
Well, we've
Oh,
got
the
you've given us the
handout.
handout.
And that's not the long version, that's the
No.
short version.
It's
So
cut
there's
off,
a
isn't
slightly
it?
longer
It's
one
like,
that Grace
yeah.
sent out. It might only be question 5 that's
It sounds like it, I'll send that again.
It's just 5. It's just very short, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
half-
Okay.
because this one doesn't mention.
If you don't get it in the
text.
next 2 hours, can you email me?
Yes.
So I can, because I know my brain. I know what I'm not capable of.
You're going to look at my book review
Yes.
and
And send it to you.
in an email.
Yeah, it's fine, I mean, in general. So, and if you have questions about the things I wrote about the email, about the book review, definitely email me about it if you're concerned or worried or think it's fabulous or whatever the issues are. Okay, I'm gonna be back on Tuesday. I'm not sure if we're having a class. Are we having a class Tuesday night? We are.
I don't know. It's up to you.
It's your class.
Your class.
I think there's one more.
It's one more,
on the
there's one more on the
syllabus.
syllabus. We are having a
Yes.
class. Yeah, okay, good. Adorno or class. Because I know there's what's called a ResCon that's happening, a big research meeting.
Maybe it's worth also mentioning that in the email as well, because only
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
the handbook thing, sorry, not thing, the handbook.
The outline.
The outline, it's sort of very brief and it's maybe.
Says wrap up.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit ambiguous as to whether it's a class or not.
Okay, yeah, okay, we might have some, I mean, I've got to check and see about this research thing. It has to happen, but I'll send you an email. Send you an email. Everything okay?
I'm going to let disappear.
Goodbye. Thank you for waiting so long until you had your question.
Not all the
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. See you.
If you can get down to the work, get down.
So I know I wasn't
We missed that one and someone else got cover.
There's no problem, not taking it quite seriously. Oh, yeah.
I think it's he did send an email.
That may not matter too much.
We have missed one.
Well, then who should I do that? Leave me.
Well, I just assumed it was me because I thought that you were sort of going.
Would you, I don't know, they're like
Andre.
There's definitely feedback. No, there's definitely feedback.
that Bataille thing. Not the one that's
Oh my God, is that another one you're answering?
the other one.
She's doing all of
I'm
them.
worrying about you now, I'm worrying about you.
Okay, I feel much better after this meeting.
Good.
Yeah, we're just living in a good way. I feel worse.
You feel worse? Great.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, thank you.
In relation to the imposter results,
yeah, the imposter.
Yes.
Did you not get it?
what the film as a whole.
Yeah.
Not-
No, did you not see it?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, it opened my mind. Kind of, would you want to?
People actually want their essays back. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't mark on them, but if you want them back.
Let's talk about the imposter. I want to talk about the imposter. I watched that film.
I mean,
want to talk about it.
For example,
Because it's so
Sarah,
complex.
you
Isn't it?
have a lovely folder
Okay.
that I could keep. But they're not written on.
No, okay, no,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So just, you know.
Just like back at this,
Yeah, it's there.
Oh yeah, I'm really hungover.
Yeah. No, let's talk about it. Yeah, at another time. I think I
Yeah, let me tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm ready. Just so my
You didn't. I don't think you did. I think yours was one that was not in fact emailed to me. Nothing about us.
We feel better now.
Evil laugh, you know.
Yes, I
Yeah,
well, I'm not.
did
an
you not get it?
expert,
Yeah, no, I.
Did you not get it? You didn't get it quickly. I've got a copy of yours as well.
I sent
Okay.
Dropbox to my son-in-law and said, read so that we can discuss.
Ah.
Millie? Oh, Millie's gone too.
Is that on the, this is forward work? Is that on the
Yes.
final?
No.
What?